Which of the following is not a real animal? A. The Formosan flying monkey, B. The Formosan flying fox, or C. The Formosan white-headed flying squirrel? Only one of these is not a real animal. Keep listening to Formosa Fauna to find out which. Spend the next 20 minutes feeding your brain with Formosa Fauna so you can become smarter than all of your friends. Every Friday is Formosa Fauna Friday. Hello, I'm Tristan Hildebrand, the voice of Formosa Fauna. I love animals and I love talking about them. If you're even remotely curious about the animal kingdom, you're in the right place. On today's agenda, we have a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about the flying Formosan animal making a comeback in Hualien, recycled food waste being banned for pigs in Taichung, Eurasian otter cubs growing stronger in Kinmen, young malnourished Formosan black bear captured, Scientist of the Week, Charles Johnson Maynard, the common octopus, and handling a fear of the groomer and vet for dogs. Let's dive right in. The Formosan flying fox is the largest bat in Taiwan, with a wingspan that can stretch close to 1 meter, about the length of a standard baseball bat or the width of a medium-sized hawk in flight. According to recent monitoring by conservation biologists, about 166 individuals are now regularly roosting and foraging in Hualien City, a number that suggests this urban population is stabilizing and possibly even growing. Researchers use DNA sampling and radio/GPS tracking to map their nightly movements, discovering that many of these bats stay within a surprisingly small home range of about 1 square kilometer. One particular male, named Ming, has been faithfully returning to the same cluster of trees for 5 years straight. The Formosan flying fox is a subspecies of the Ryukyu flying fox, a broader group of fruit bats found across parts of Japan, the Philippines, and Taiwan. Despite their wide regional distribution, these bats face similar conservation challenges, and the Formosan variety is considered especially vulnerable due to decades of habitat loss and hunting. Genetic studies even show very low genetic diversity, which can make populations less resilient to disease or climate shifts. These factors are part of what makes the new Hualien data so encouraging. It suggests that even in urban areas, these bats are capable of carving out a stable home. They navigate by eyesight and smell, not echolocation. Flying foxes play an important ecological role. They're major pollinators and seed dispersers, helping fruit trees and native plants regenerate throughout the city. Taiwan's conservation agencies now list them as a priority species, working with researchers and volunteers to protect their roosting sites and ensure that parks and green spaces continue to support these impressive animals. The hope for them is that the small but determined Hualien population becomes a model for how wildlife can coexist and thrive in urban environments. If you're dying to see one, like I am, the Taipei Zoo has some in their Formosan area. In a bold move, Taichung Mayor Lu Hualien recently announced a permanent ban on using food waste to feed pigs in the city of Taichung. Previously, many pig farmers, in particular those raising black pigs, relied on food scraps as a cheap, abundant, and eco-friendly food source. But after a recent outbreak of African swine fever due to improperly handled food waste, Mayor Lu announced the decision that this will no longer be an option. Taichung is putting its foot down, saying that the city's long-term strategy should move away from food waste-fed pig farming. African swine fever is one of the deadliest viral diseases in the animal kingdom. It doesn't harm humans, so you can't catch it from eating pork, but for pigs, it's nearly always fatal. The World Organization for Animal Health describes it as a highly contagious viral disease of domestic and wild pigs caused by a DNA virus. Symptoms start subtly: fever, loss of appetite, lethargy, but soon escalate into internal bleeding, darkened skin, and sudden death. There is no effective vaccine available for most countries, meaning that the only way to stop its spread is to cull, which means kill, infected herds and impose strict quarantines. While Western pig farmers typically feed pigs a diet primarily consisting of cereal grains like corn and sorghum, supplemented with soybean meal and other protein sources, a decent portion of Taiwan's pig industry relies on recycled kitchen waste, leftover food that is collected from restaurants, schools, and households. However, if any of that waste contains contaminated pork, from imported sausages, dumplings, or processed meat, and if it isn't cooked to a high enough temperature, the virus can survive and infect the pigs that eat it, which is what happened recently in Taichung. According to the Taiwan News Report, this recycled kitchen waste ban hasn't gone over very smoothly. The Taichung Pig Farmers Association pushed back, warning that black pig farms could be severely hurt. These farmers argue that if they lose access to food waste, they might not be able to stay in business at all, especially since food waste represents a big cost-saving component for them. On top of that, the Pig Farmers Association raised concerns about waste processing. Taichung produces hundreds of tons of food waste every month, and the city's incinerators are already under strain should food scraps not be recycled. Mayor Liu responded by saying that the city government has no immediate plans to build a centralized food waste processing facility to convert scraps into liquid pig feed. Her worry is that transporting and processing food waste centrally would introduce hygiene risks. She argued that delays in feeding time might allow germs to flourish during transport, potentially making the feed unsafe. There is good news coming out of Kinmen, or Kinmen, the small group of islands just off of Taiwan's coast. Community wildlife patrols have documented a rise in Eurasian otter cubs, suggesting that the population of this near-threatened species may be growing stronger. Using infrared motion sensor cameras placed around waterways, local conservationists captured footage of otter mothers interacting with their young, a sign that more families are successfully raising offspring, as reported on by Taiwan News. Infrared cameras are cameras that detect heat to capture images of animals, often used at night. Estimates suggest there are currently between 60 to 150 Eurasian otters living in Kinmen, but their movements are constrained by human-made barriers like fences near the water. These kinds of obstacles make the otters' lives a little bit more difficult since they rely on dense riverside vegetation for raising their cubs and need open, free-flowing waterways to move around. Wildlife groups are pushing for more community involvement. Volunteers are helping by removing discarded fishing nets and keeping monitoring cameras running at all times. The Ministry of Agriculture has also designated Kinmen as a key habitat for otters, offering incentives to groups that engage in ecological conservation. Officials in Hualien recently captured a Formosan black bear in Lishan village after reports that it had been attacking chickens. Local residents contacted authorities when they noticed the damage, and wildlife officials installed infrared cameras near the area to monitor the animal's movements. Around 9:30 p.m., the bear, a young male, was caught in a cage trap. The bear weighed about 12.3 kilograms and measured 99.5 centimeters from nose to tail, indicating it was very underweight. It was transported to the Wild One Animal Hospital in Pingdong for a health check and nutritional support. Officials plan to monitor the bear until it reaches an appropriate weight and health level, after which a decision will be made about releasing it back into the wild, whether or not that's appropriate or feasible. The Formosan black bear is an endangered subspecies native to Taiwan, with population estimates ranging from 200 to 600 individuals. Authorities advise residents in forested and remote areas to secure food, kitchen waste, and trash to avoid attracting bears, and to report sightings to local officials. Infrared cameras and monitoring systems are commonly used tools in managing encounters with wildlife, allowing officials to track and respond to animal activity without direct contact. The Scientist of the Week, Charles Johnson Maynard. Charles Johnson Maynard was an American naturalist born in 1845 in West Newton, Massachusetts. He helped work the family farm as a child, which meant he couldn't get a lot of formal schooling. Despite that, his passion and curiosity about nature drove him to make a living centered around animals, as by the age of 21, he was collecting and selling bird skins and other natural specimens like butterflies, reptiles, and snails, selling them to collectors. As he grew older, Maynard became deeply involved in the world of ornithology, which is the branch of science that studies birds. In 1873, he helped found the Utah Ornithological Club, which was one of the first American bird study organizations. He also started the club's journal just a few years later. But because he often left on summer trips to the Bahamas to collect specimens for his own business, he was criticized for neglecting his editorial responsibilities. When he returned from one of those trips, he resigned in frustration and remained more of an outsider in the formal scientific community for the rest of his life. What people have remarked about Maynard is how self-reliant he was. He published many of his own books, setting the type, printing the pages, carving wood blocks for illustrations, hand-coloring the images, and even binding the books himself. Among his works were beautifully illustrated guides to butterflies and bird eggs. He had a sharp eye for discovery. For example, in 1888, he described Cerian nanus, a very small land snail with a highly restricted habitat on Little Cayman Island, what some later referred to as the rarest snail in the world. Maynard died in 1929, leaving behind a legacy of self-published, deeply personal contributions to natural history. Taiwan is an island that is 70% covered by mountains, lakes, and jungle. Taiwan's early connections to the Pacific and Southeast Asia are well established and are the basis for seeing Taiwan as an ocean nation. Did you know that over 17,000 species thrive in the deep sea where no light penetrates the ocean waves? Or that there are 38,000 different kinds of microbes in just 1 liter of seawater? These were all discoveries made by the Census of Marine Life, a 10-year international effort that assessed the diversity, distribution, and abundance of marine life. Today, you're going to learn about the common octopus, just a regular octopus. Many people describe encounters with or observations of octopuses as the closest thing to an intelligent alien. As Dr. Helen Scales puts it, octopuses are their own experiment in evolution. They have blue blood, 3 hearts, and eyes that hint at their inquisitive minds. While surrounding creatures like clams, snails, and other mollusks are much simpler, somehow octopuses evolved to be big-brained geniuses. Why could that be? When octopuses sleep, they tend to change color and texture. Scientists have only recently drawn the conclusion that this could be because they're dreaming. Their caretakers in captivity speak wonders of their personalities. Some will even take to disliking a particular caretaker, squirting water each time they walk by. Some will learn to escape their enclosures in elaborate ways, such as blocking the water outflow to flood the room. And many are capable of opening child-proof medicine containers. While they are very smart, they are built quite differently from humans. The 500 million neurons that they have are actually split in half. Half of them are in their head, and the rest are in their arms. Humans, like you and I, just have these neurons in our heads. There are theories as to how they evolved. One of them is that their ancient ancestors had shells, lost these external shells, allowing them to become more agile predators, and then they had to develop a large nervous system to keep all 8 tentacles in line. As the theory goes, many animals would want to eat soft, shell-less animals like the octopus, so their intelligence was crucial to their survival. There are around 300 different kinds of octopuses that live all across the ocean. In 2021, lawmakers in the United Kingdom added octopuses, cuttlefish, and squid to the official list of sentient beings, which are animals that can experience pleasure and joy as well as pain and distress. However, the world's first octopus farm was announced by a Spanish company around the same time. Both animal welfare activists and scientists alike are fighting against mass producing the intelligent creatures for human consumption, as they say it is unethical and should be banned before it even starts. Have you ever had to bring your pets into the groomer or the vet? Well, if you have, you'll know that dogs almost immediately develop a fear of the groomer and the vet. Who can blame them, though? They're often held still by strangers on a cold table being poked and prodded. These trips are often necessary, though, of course, and there's a very good way to make that fear go away. Of course, for you, making it more manageable to get your dog into the groomer or vet, but also for your pup, so they don't have to go through additional unnecessary stress, and even for the groomers and vets who have to deal with less unruly dogs. Dog trainer Zach George suggests spending time at these places outside of normally scheduled visits instead of waiting until you actually have an appointment. George says to ask your groomer or vet if you can bring them in several times a month when you don't have an appointment. When you get there, you give your dog time to adjust, which can take around 20 minutes or a bit longer. Just be very low-key and hang out. Make sure nothing bad happens. This will allow your dog to start seeing these offices as just normal places. Of course, you can also do a bit of counter-conditioning by providing your dog with treats or toys so they start associating very positive things with those places. When appropriate, you can even have the vet, groomer, or other staff members interact with your dog by giving them a few commands like sit, shake, and rewarding them with treats. It sounds like a lot of extra stuff to do, and I'm typically a people pleaser who'd rather avoid causing trouble for people just trying to do their jobs. But to be honest, whenever my family brings our pets into the vet, the entire staff remembers them and interacts with them and loves them anyway. On the day of the actual appointment, you can also exercise them before the visit, which will help reduce your dog's anxiety. Just like how we all feel better, more confident, a little bit more at ease after a workout ourselves. This segment of the show will teach listeners just like you how to train dogs. Tune in each episode and you'll eventually be able to do just about anything as far as training goes. I'm referring to Zach George's guide to a well-behaved dog because he's a real professional dog trainer. I don't currently live with any dogs, but find the knowledge widely applicable as I grew up with dogs, hear people in my circle who are struggling to train their dogs, and run into stray dogs on my way home in Taiwan every day. So if you're like me and don't currently have a way to apply these methods, there's no telling when exactly they might come in handy. Has anything in the news recently piqued your curiosity as far as animal-related stories go? Go ahead and send me an email because I would love to hear about it. My email address is tristan@rti.org.tw. That is tristan@rti.org.tw. Making it to the end of an episode makes you a Formosa Fauna friend. Thank you for tuning in, friend. See you next time for Formosa Fauna Fridays here on Radio Taiwan International.